I think the last time I saw Tom was in his retirement ceremony at the unit. Tom's always had a good heart, but always been a well-respected leader. And right here at Warrior's Heart, you can see the entryway right here. Had a whole bunch of buddies of mine that have gone through this, and it's all about healing guys, especially with our backgrounds in special operations. So be cool to get the grand tour and see how they're doing it, and then obviously talk about Warrior's Heart and its importance, I think, for the least that we could do for these guys.
The whole deal is, again, the client base is, active duty veterans, first responders.
Yeah.
And it's the full gamut, man. They're all coming in at the really bottom part of their life.
Yeah.
All alcohol, drugs, primary diagnosis, chemical dependencies,
Okay.
secondary co-occurring conditions, which is PTSD, moral grief, injury, blah, 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 alphabet soup.
So this is almost the worst case scenario where they're at the very bottom. This is not mid-grade. This isn't guys just aren't getting along. This is like,
Yeah, man, so this has got, you know what I mean? They got some sort of chemical dependency going on. So this is, hey, getting, that under control, getting cleaned up, getting trained up.
Yeah.
That's got to happen first. Like, you can go sit with the Dalai Lama, you can go get all your brain treatment, but if alcohol or drugs is your thing, none of that's going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're treating a symptom, not the cause.
Yes.
I know what the guys can take on the psychology side. Psychologists want to do more psychology.
Yeah.
They're supposed to. They're SMEs, they're passionate, dedicated.
You're a ground force commander, like with the overarching perspective to be able to see the big
We
picture.
need those SMEs and that on the ground truth and all those different things. But at the end of the day, it's a warrior making that decision.
Yeah.
So if you look at the warrior problems, right, chemical dependencies, PTS, all the other issues going on, warriors are problem solvers.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yep.
9/11 happens, we solve the problem. If fucking house is on fire, solve my problem. Cops, you know what I mean? We're problem solvers. But then where we violated that own train of logic is our own problems.
Yeah.
Now we started our own problems with PTS and chemical dependence, and what did we do? We're like, psych, fix us. Chaplain, fix us. That doesn't follow a warrior train of logic.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
We didn't own our own thing, so now we need those subject matter experts, just like back in that talk. But at the end of the day, I'm not telling the intel guy to write an op order when I got an OPSO right there.
Yeah.
The big things that we do out here, and you'll see it as we go along, is number one is remind them of who they are.
Yeah.
Not who they are not. Like, so when they come through those gates, again, they're at the lowest part they've ever been in their lives. All the way from first treatment center they've ever been to. Like, man, didn't you, whenever that goal, when you were writing out your short-term and long-term goals, like, I can't wait to go to rehab?
Yeah.
That wasn't on there, was it?
Yeah, that's not one of them. That's not an option.
So here they are. That was never one of them either. So when I say relative to where they are, it's the same thing. Like, holy shit, I'm in rehab, Wow. So everything is not militaristic, but everything has that rhythm. 0-7 accountability, not formation, but accountability. 7:30's chow, 8 o'clock we're hitting the nature walk. You know what I mean? Hey, 10 o'clock first class. Okay, chow's at noon.
Nice.
Got it. So it's that rhythm.
Some structure back in them.
When it's familiar.
How long is the overall program?
So it's a 42-day minimum inpatient.
Oh, well, I'm thinking like a week. This is 42 days.
42 days.
Wow.
Minimum. Yep. And so a 6-week program, and I'd say at least 50%, depending on the time, extend a week or two. So you end up doing 8 weeks. Yeah. To put it in perspective, imagine, which you're very familiar with, you're taking a civilian.
Yeah.
With no combat experience at all, and in 42 days, guaranteed they're going to be in a gunfight for their lives, what would you teach them? See what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yep. So
I got chills.
Yeah, man. So
Crazy.
so here it's the same thing, because it is the same thing.
Yeah.
When they leave the wire, there's a gas station right there on the corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any town's got drugs in it. You can find it anytime. So on their 43rd day, when they're rolling out of here, they're in a fight for their lives.
Jeez.
It's not clichéic. It's not
that's
metaphorical.
the reality. Yeah.
So that's why, because there's multiple different modalities and things you could do, but that's, especially with our type of population, especially trainers, it's like, imagine in 42 days this person is going to be in a gunfight for their life.
Yeah.
You just be powering in the basics, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference about it being warrior led.
Yeah.
I know these things, you know these things. It's
Yeah.
like I take all that voodoo, well, it's not voodoo, I take all the complexities that our psychs have, you know what I mean, and everything. It's like, hey, how do you make this into an end user experience? You know? In most places where qualified guys that come and gals that come here, they would have them in places where they take your shoelaces, take your belts, put you in a hospital setting, and you know, and now we're going to get better.
Yeah. That's not a good start.
It's not, there's a time and a place for that depending on the level of care that is needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like getting stable, some guys need meds, you know, if you got some physiology going on, like those places are absolutely necessary when they're necessary.
Yeah.
But when they're not, you know what I mean, then we know absolutely environment matters. So then, you know, they kind of bring them over here. This is what we call CR, which is client relations. So if you think of a resort, the concierge, like who do you go to for questions? Hey, I need this, what do I need to that? That's what CR does.
Okay.
And then we got this little monument right here.
Really cool.
I don't know if you knew Mac or not. He was in A Squadron about the time.
I remember him.
I
heard about him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he ended up dying of cancer and stuff, but he was a really good friend of mine. So
yeah.
And then the who made this is I don't know if you know Greg Birch. Yeah, right. Legendary war wizard, Greg Birch. So Greg made this monument. Greg ran the metal shop here for the first year we were open.
Wow.
So when the guys would go in the metal shop to make a tomahawk, they'd see this dude like, hey, you want to make a tomahawk? And like, okay. And then, of course, he never says nothing about himself. So later on, of course, they find out. They're like,
legend.
Trauma is just stored. You know, it's not processed.
Yeah.
You know, and the best way to explain that is that just think of, I'm not asking you to think of a traumatic event in your life, but whenever I'm thinking of a traumatic event, like if you ask me about it, because it's a memory.
Yeah.
Right? You ask me about, hey, Tom, tell me the memory of when your son was born. You know, I'm like, well, it's got a beginning. Like we were going to the hospital, you know, and then we were at the hospital and the baby's born, and then that day we took him home, right? It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. The story, the memory.
Yeah.
A traumatic memory is just trauma. There's no beginning. Like if I think of a traumatic event, I don't think about what happened before it, what led up to it. I don't think about what happened after. I just think of this. So it's stuck. So
there's no process.
So how do we do movement? You know what I mean? And so art, creativity, that kind of stuff, yoga, talking with sight, you know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff has got one purpose in mind, and that's movement. Even on the battlefield, right? If you're not moving, it's just a matter of time.
You're vulnerable.
Yeah, man. It's like, so again, we take all that kind of stuff, nothing new age, nothing gee whiz. It's like, okay, now let's apply that to this population. I mean, are there like psychological issues above our level of care? Absolutely. Schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder, extreme bipolar. You know what I mean? There are like complex issues. But for the majority of the folks, you know what I mean, it's not. Most of them are fairly high functioning. So right now we normally are running, right now we're about at 48, but we're normally running between 55 and 58.
Oh wow, that many?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a
heavy.
I'm thinking this is a light. This is a heavy. This is like
when we'll come in for chow and you'll see, but there's today there was 47.
wow.
In the census, yeah.
Wow.
So, and again, just the normal things. You got chores, you got all that stuff. This is a little bit of a so here's the curriculum, right? So a lot of our stuff is dictated by state of Texas.
Yeah.
Right. So rehab one-on-one stuff, right? But then we have
Yeah.
a lot of wiggle room in there, like, hey, you can do all these things. Obviously, you have to meet certain criteria and standards. But if you look at the overall, the morning time frame is to get them moving. So we got yoga, we got nature walk, aka forced road march, and yoga again, experiential, naked. So it gets them outside,
Yeah.
it gets them moving, because a lot of them haven't.
Yeah.
Now again, back to the spectrum. I mean, we've got everything from amputees to dudes that throw them weight like monsters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So ability groups. And then in the afternoon is the electives. So it's either more gym time, wood shop, metal shop, art, canine, fishing, and their one-on-ones is during, because you're doing all that heavy duty stuff, you have to be able to decompress, you have to be able to process, you have to.
So one-on-one, they're doing it by themselves with somebody in the
clinician.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with a license.
Wow.
clinician.
Okay.
So that's what goes on in the afternoons on the most days. Then the evening 1700. They're back at Chow. They get their phones from 6 to 6:50, and then in the evenings from 7 to 8:30 they got another group, and then from 8:30 to 11 is their only free time, and it's lights, and that's where really all the magic happens by the fire pit, because we need back to SMEs, we need them to chip away and get stuff moving, and all this different curriculum getting stuff moving. But then it's with your tribe,
Yeah.
your peers,
Yeah.
because a stateside paramedic and a combat veteran have very different experiences, but not what's eating them up. It's the kids in the car wrecks, it's the
Yeah.
innocents that got killed, it's the buddies lost. It's this. So fundamentally, at the heart level, that
They could find that common.
It doesn't matter where it happened, if it was Baghdad or Chicago. It doesn't. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
What matters is like, man, how do we move on? But there is no healing without the community in which the warrior went and fought for. There's only relief. What I mean by that is me and you got 2 cups. They're of combat experience. Mine's 3/4 full, yours is 3/4 full, right? We have combat experience, that's what it is. You call me up, like, hey bro, I'm having a rough night. Like, yep, come on over. You come over, we hang out in the garage, we do something, we don't do nothing, whatever, but you dump a little bit of yours into mine, right?
Wow.
So I can only take so much, number one, and then, so you're just jumping a little bit, So now I'm like at 85, you're at 65. So relief has occurred, but no healing. You leave, because what happens next? I call you. I say, Mike, I'm not having a good time. You're like, bro, come on to the house. I come to the house. What happens then? I pour some of mine back into yours. So all we're doing is pass it back and forth. Relief occurs, which is wonderful, right?
Yeah.
So,
But it's temporary.
but there's no healing.
Yeah.
So how do we get that out? Here's how. Someone comes into the circle whose combat experience is empty, right?
Yeah.
Completely empty. So if I was to take a little bit of mine and dump into theirs, only 5% say, they can leave with that. It's 5%. They can leave with that, and they're good with it. And I'm less now.
Yeah.
Never to get it back again.
Yeah.
Because this was a community member, and this was no combat experience, and I just did. So how does that occur? With a story,
Yeah.
right? But the story I'm talking about is the one that we don't even talk about amongst ourselves. Those stories. So the way that a warrior is changed from experience in war for the community, the way that they're forever changed, the community is forever changed by hearing that story.
Wow.
The one we don't talk, but therein lies the issue with mine and yours community. Veterans, combat veterans. Who's telling those stories? I wasn't. You're not.